with the best sports talk in Middle Tennessee, featuring Tennessee Radio Hall of Famer George Plaster, Tennessee Sports Hall of Fame coach Watson Brown, and Young Guns Billy Derrick. And now, here's your host, George Plaster.
Hello again, everybody. Welcome in. It's a beautiful Thursday in Nashville, Tennessee. Now, you're wondering, what room are we in? Well, the Metropolitan Sports Authority met over here at the Fordyce Center earlier, so we're in a conference room, but we decided to turn it into the Terry Crisp room.
Because this is the Terry Crisp rink.
Exactly. Okay, so back there is Terry Crisp, the broadcaster, with Lindsay Rayleigh. On this side, in the middle, is Terry Crisp as a Calgary Flame with the Stanley Cup. By the way, if you don't get along with Crispy, it's your fault. That is one tremendous human being. Okay.
If you don't get along with him, you won't get along with anybody.
No, you got problems. He and I have had a lot of fun over the years. Man, great storyteller.
He's
funny.
A blast.
Oh, he is a piece of work. So we begin the show today with the very latest on Titans wide receiver Treylon Burks by way of Terry McCormick's Daily Titans Update. And that update is brought to you by Lori Burnett Leland, who wants to be your mortgage lady. And through the folks at USA Mortgage, that indeed can happen. Dial her up at 615-969-4350. Let's bring Terry McCormick in. Terry, it's not perfect, but it's better than we thought yesterday when we left the air.
Yeah, there was a report from Ian Rappaport of NFL Network that came out yesterday evening saying that it's a lateral collateral ligament sprain. Try saying that three times really fast, George.
What was that?
And that is not as serious as an ACL or a PCL, maybe about the same as an MCL sprain. Going to be a few weeks if that diagnosis and that report is correct. Mike Vrabel is supposed to address the media here in about 10 to 15 minutes, so maybe he will confirm what it is.
Yeah, and we will check into that and let people know exactly what it is he puts out there. So, Terry, I'm guessing this is something like a month. Does that sound about right?
Yeah, from what I've been reading, it says it can be, 3 to 6 weeks, 3 months in a most serious case, but about 3 to 6 weeks apparently is the going, timetable in terms of most people's recovery from it. So if that's the case, even erring on the higher side of that, he would probably miss about 2 to 3 games of the regular season, which is certainly a better prognosis than maybe what we feared yesterday, that he might be gone for the year if it indeed had been an ACL.
So as you think about all the stuff we threw out there yesterday, because God knows we speculated on every scenario humanly possible, now do you think it's simply that the two will be in-house, or do they try to go outside?
No, if it's not a very serious injury, if it's what this report is saying, I wouldn't think that they would go outside to add another receiver. They'll just make do forever how long Treylon Burks is out. The thing that probably alters their situation is that I think this team is locked into keeping 3 quarterbacks with how good Malik Willis has looked over the first couple of weeks of camp. So if they were going to trim back and maybe only keep 5 wide receivers as opposed to 6, Burks' injury forces them to keep 6 because they can't transfer Burks off the roster. They have to keep him available and just deactivate him forever how long he's going to be out. So it might force them to take away from another spot and it might be something that allows a Racy McMath or a Reggie Roberson type of guy to make the roster, maybe when they were not going to initially.
So Terry, the last we checked on the Vikings in games that mattered, they couldn't get a stop against the Giants. They had home field in that playoff game, and Daniel Jones carved them to pieces. For me, it was a little disturbing to hear Ryan Tannehill admit that they got nothing done against what I think is kind of a porous Minnesota defense. You feel the same way?
Well, I think you take it with a grain of salt. I think the Vikings went out and I think they made a concerted effort to try and improve that defense in the offseason, adding some pieces. They also brought in Brian Flores to be the defensive coordinator. He's a pretty respected defensive mind throughout the league. So this Vikings defense of 2023 may not be as bad as the one that was in 2022 because goodness knows you're exactly right. I mean, how many games last year did Kirk Cousins and Justin Jefferson and all pull out of the fire 34-31 at the last second because the defense was so porous that they kept giving up points. So I think they've made a concerted effort to try and improve the defense. Now, what I hear as far as the good reports that are coming out from the writers that are up there says it sounds like the Titans defense has really been putting their best foot forward, that Simmons and Arden Key and Harold Landry have been rushing the passer. People have been raving about the job that Christian Fulton's been doing when he's been matched up on Justin Jefferson, and the entire defense seems to be playing pretty well.
You know, Terry, when you think back a year ago, they had so many injuries. And I can remember when Jacksonville came in and it was so demoralizing. They couldn't get a stop on third down. But it seems like with everybody healthy on the defensive end, at least for now, and we'll knock on wood that it stays that way, they seem to be getting it done.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the regular season will be the truth there, but it does seem like that this defense has taken a step forward. If they can keep people healthy, and that's a big if, but they are due for some good luck on that end, George. If they can keep guys like Landry and Fulton and Simmons, some of these guys that have been banged up, if they can keep them upright and in one piece and out there for 17 games, I think this defense has a chance to be pretty decent.
So, Terry, help me with this. Another practice session tomorrow with the Vikings and then the game Saturday night. Tell me, what is the schedule?
Tomorrow will be an off day. Only 2 days of practice, yesterday and today. And then tomorrow will be an off day, and then they'll play the game on Saturday night in Minneapolis.
Then go see the Twins.
Yes, there you go.
By the way, congratulations to your team.
My team is horrible.
Oh,
you need to ask Danny why the farm system is bankrupt. Please ask him that.
I'll be happy to. I'll be happy to.
Ask him why other than Aaron Judge, the farm system has not produced one top flight major leaguer in the last 8 years.
Speaking of Aaron Judge, what are they going to do with Aaron Boone?
They're going to fire him at the end of the year.
They need to fire Brian Cashman as well.
Don't you think Boone's gone?
He could be. He could very well be. If they finish with a losing record and finish in last place, I think that's a very real possibility.
George would have had him out, not me. You know who I'm talking
hired
about.
His own son as the managing general partner for not doing anything.
We'll talk again tomorrow.
All right. Sounds good.
That's Terry McCormick's Daily Titans Update, brought to you by Lori Burnett Leland. She wants to be your mortgage lady. And through the folks at USA Mortgage, that absolutely can happen. 615-969-4350. Before we bring Kelly in, tomorrow, big day on the show. We will debut our 15-week tour of high school campuses. We'll begin tomorrow at this beautiful new site just down the road from here. James Lawson, formerly Hillwood High School, a beautiful new auditorium that we will broadcast out of tomorrow. The 2 to 3 o'clock will be high school football exclusively. I'm going to ask all of you to tune in tomorrow because I think you're really going to like what we do. It'll be in front of a live studio audience. We'll have a band there, and most importantly, Kelly will be nowhere in sight. Kelly, how you doing?
George, you might wish you'll be wishing you had me there. You know,
Really?
I'm just glad that you finally grew a pair and you called Terry out on the Yankees.
It wasn't. Look, I feel bad for Terry.
No, you
A
don't.
lot of the Yankee fans can really be obnoxious. Terry is not one of those.
Yeah, but you don't really feel bad for him.
No, not really.
Exactly. So
No,
let's don't be phony. Let's just put it out there.
Yeah, I remember sitting in 96 and 99 at the World Series. They beat the hell out of us. And so if, turnabout was fair play this week, so be it.
It's just regular season, though, George. Just regular season.
I know.
It only matters. It only matters up to a certain point, and then you got to get it done when you pass that point.
October.
Yes, sir.
Speaking of
the hunt for Red October.
Correct.
Speaking of getting it done, we'll see if Auburn can get it done this year at the quarterback position. They have apparently named a starter, and it's going to be Payton Thorne, the transfer from Michigan State. And apparently he has beaten out Robbie Ashford. Now,
which surprises me.
Robbie Ashford's going to play, though, this year.
He's got to. He's too good an athlete.
Yeah, and that might be a 2-quarterback system because you never know. Thorne could get hurt. They could want, red zone packages for maybe Ashford, but Payton Thorne is the guy they're gonna trot out there.
Kelly, that doesn't seem to fit Hugh Freeze's deal. Maybe I'm wrong about that.
You talking about the guy that just got it, Payton Thorne?
Yeah, I thought it would be Robbie Ashford.
I don't know. Of course, we hadn't been to practice, so we don't know what went on. I mean, obviously they were having a competition in a battle, and he won the battle. So I don't know. You got to be smart in those offenses, and you can't run too much. Sometimes I've said it all the time. Sometimes you can be too athletic and play quarterback, and when you get in trouble, your first instinct is to run. When all you have to do is just slide to the left or slide to the right, or come up in the pocket and complete a pass. And until some of these young guys understand that, hey, it's going to be hard on them.
Well, and a Malik Willis-style quarterback might work at Liberty in that conference, but I don't know that would work in the SEC for too long.
That's my phone, by the way, that I didn't turn off.
What kind of issue operation is this?
Hold on a second.
That's
in honor of Greg Ruff, this is a gruff dog move that would have me go, look. So if you hear it in the background, doofus me didn't turn off the phone. Move on.
I mean, put it on vibrate. Let's go, dude. I mean, that's a fine, George. $100, put in the kitty, and we'll all go out to eat one night at Cane Prime or something. Well, wherever you want.
Golden Corral.
We can't go to Golden Corral. We're not going to Crystals either. So I know that
garnishment of wages.
I don't guess.
Yeah. That's right.
You better pipe down because that's been suggested on you.
All right. Some other news in college football. Former Northwestern coach Pat Fitzgerald is going to serve as a parent volunteer for the football program at Loyola Academy, private school in the Chicago area. His 2 younger sons are there right now. He's got a freshman and a junior there. But I thought it was interesting. He's got an older son, Jack, who remains on Northwestern's roster right now, which I didn't even know.
Can you say uncomfortable?
Yeah, I didn't even know that. But he's going to I guess he's going to help coach his son's high school football team.
That has got to be uncomfortable.
Yeah, even for that high school, some of the kids there having him in the building and I guess on the sidelines. But I mean, he's a great coach.
Look, nobody's more stunned with how this has turned out than me, because on the respect level meter, Fitzgerald was way up there. This wasn't somebody who had, a rogue reputation. Everything I knew about him was really, very reputable.
Classy.
I mean,
I'm still surprised a lot of that stuff came out.
Me too. You never know what goes on behind closed doors, though, fellas.
It's a song.
It is.
Well, fellas, tonight high school football is back.
Yes, it is.
First high school football game of the season. Cane Ridge at Mount Juliet. 7 o'clock. It's on TV. My TV 30. It'll be good to turn the channel over there. Brentwood and Blackman tomorrow on My TV 30, and then CPA and BA. Really good matchup on Saturday night.
None will have the excitement of Football Friday at James Lawson.
James Lawson playing Cheatham County Central, I think, tomorrow for their first game. So
Cheatham County's got a high school football team?
Yeah, they've got a Cheatham County high school team. I guess they've got a newer school, Cheatham County Central now. I'm hearing that. Yeah. I mean, there's new high schools popping up every year. It's kind of crazy. But
everybody moving into the Middle Tennessee area, man. You got to open up more.
Bring them on.
Murfreesboro is one of those areas too that has just.
You don't have to remind me, and you don't have to remind George either, because he called me and he was in the traffic coming from Nashville to Murfreesboro yesterday.
Yeah. What time
Good
did you get
luck
there?
with that.
An hour and 45 minutes.
Good luck with that, dude.
Left Vanderbilt's campus at 4:15 and arrived in Murfreesboro about 5:50. Actually, an hour 35.
Vandy's SID. I was bringing packing the equipment back up, and Vandy's SID Mike Scholl goes, "Where'd George go?" I was like, he had to get out to Murfreesboro.
If you don't get out of town by a certain time,
done.
You're screwed.
And then I came in. I had to put my daughter. I had to get my daughter back in the dorm today at Lipscomb, and I came down there at 9:15. And once we got to the Murfreesboro Davidson County line, traffic just stopped. It's unbelievable.
We have become Atlanta Junior.
Mm-hmm.
Correct.
Is your update complete?
It's complete.
Okay, let me tell people what we got going on. Brad Logan knows more about Ole Miss Rebel football than anybody. I saw him earlier in the car. Good-looking shades. I hope he'll put them on when he does the report. He's giving me the no. No, we're not doing that. Anyway, Brad will join us after the break, and we'll talk about what I think is probably a very interesting quarterback battle going on down in Oxford. It's not just Jackson Dart, but it's the kid Spencer Sanders.
Spencer Sanders from OSU.
And they've got another guy that is good too.
So we're going to find out all of this after the break. At 3 o'clock today, Danny Evans will join us to talk baseball. And Kelly, I am going to list my top 5 in baseball. Top 5 teams. It's not going to be, it's not quite going to be what you think.
George,
you might be surprised.
George, I love you and I appreciate you giving me the opportunity, but I really don't care.
Well, let me say that the show will go on whether you care or not. So Brad Logan is in the on-deck circle. He's sitting there thinking to himself, what the hell?
What have I gotten myself into?
What the hell is Kelly Holcomb's problem? Well, there's a
lot of people think that, George.
We've had a lot of fun since we started doing this. Stay tuned. We're talking Ole Miss Rebel football when we come back.
Year number 2 of the Plaster and Friends Celebrity Bowling Night was awesome. And the reason is really simple. I chose Strike and Spare, and they were amazing. They have great food, great bowling, and a staff that is truly ready to go the extra mile to help you. They have 5 family fun centers in the area to choose from, and for more info, go to strikeandspare.com or call them at 615-824-5685.
How am I going to get to work? My car's totaled.
Skylar, our team is making a call right now. We'll get you a rental car. Don't worry.
That's a relief.
Call us 24/7. We're here. We're going to help.
You can't see the sights without the sounds. From the crack of the bat to the roar of the crowd and everything in between, discover what Hit City has to offer. Spend your nights cheering on the Nashville Sounds at First Horizon Park with giveaways, fireworks shows, theme weekends, and more. Single game tickets are on sale now. Visit NashvilleSounds.com to claim your seat today.
The George Plaster Show is Nashville's best sports talk
2 to 4 p.m. Monday through Friday on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. There's a podcast version available on Spotify and Apple Podcast. So who said I can't be a golfer? Well, you know what? This is X Golf, located just down the road from the Fordyce Center in Bellevue. This is fun. It'll improve your golf game, and you need to stop in and check it out. 8138 Sawyer Brown Road, and who knows, I may get to 200 before it's all over.
Our mission.
We are back. We're going to have a little fun talking Ole Miss Rebel football. Brad Logan knows more about that program than any human being alive, but he won't wear the shades that I saw earlier. Let's bring him up and find out, where are they?
They're beside me, George. We're not putting them on.
They looked great. I love them. How you doing?
Hey, I'm doing well. Before we get rolling, George, the last time I was talking to you, you're about to walk into a room with David Cutcliffe, John Francoeur, and John Smoltz. Tell me how that went. I did get a picture.
Yeah.
And I can only imagine you learned a lot.
Well, first of all, I passed on the message that you asked me to pass on to David.
Thank you.
He appreciated it. John Smoltz peppered him with football questions. Smoltz is apparently a rabid football guy. I knew he was a big college basketball fan. He's just a hardcore sports fan. And he peppered Cutcliffe with questions. And it just kept going on. And I just sat there listening to this going, oh, my God, this is a Hall of Fame pitcher. And I'll tell you the funniest thing that came out of it. Mark DeRosa was doing the game for MLB Network, and he goes out of their booth. This is about 30 minutes before game time, and he walks in where we are. And Mark DeRosa was a quarterback at Penn in his college days. And so he's asking David Cutcliffe about, how quick does a quarterback have to get rid of the ball? And Cutcliffe's saying something to the effect of it. If it isn't out of there in 2.5 seconds, you're in trouble. DeRosa pops in and says, well, not in the Ivy League. He said the athletes aren't as good, so let's go 3.5.
That's pretty good. I'm sure David had a big kick out of that too.
He did, and I did. It's a night at a ballpark I will never forget. It was really cool.
So I was very, very jealous. But anyway, we'll head over to Ole Miss now.
Yeah. So Lane Kiffin really went off at SEC football media days. And the sad thing to me was what he said was totally true about how crazy this system is that we now have. But Brad, I don't know, does anybody really take him seriously when he's the one saying it?
I think they do. And I think that people listen to him. Just the other day, he made Derek Nix, the wide receiver coach, the head coach for a day. Now, he did that simply because he wanted to shed some light on the lack of minority coaches in the SEC and the Big 12. Quite frankly, George, there aren't any head coaches in the Big 12 and the SEC. So I think, drawing attention to that. Secondly, he's been an advocate for some type of either collegiate legislation or legislation from the government in regards to NIL. It's completely out of whack, and Lane Kiffin understands that. He understands the game he has to play, but he also understands that he speaks through the media about as well as Nick Saban does. And just the other day, he was talking strictly about NIL, the lack of diversity, and just how the world of college football is now. We saw the SEC Network put out a tweet the other day that when he was over in Nashville during SEC Media Day, Marty McGee, and he was talking about how crazy college football is now. And I think we'll see some type of change, and I think it'll have to happen because of people like Lane Kiffin speaking out.
I hope you're right about that. We need some change. So tell me about this quarterback battle, because Spencer Sanders was a very good quarterback at Oklahoma State, and I have no idea. I'm guessing you're going to tell me it's really razor close.
It is, but I do think without question, it's Jackson Dart's job to lose. I think he'll be the starter against Mercer. I think Spencer Sanders will play. I also think Walker Howard will play. He's a former 5-star transfer out of LSU. And Jamie Howard, of course, George, you'll remember his dad played at LSU.
Oh,
He was a
sure.
legacy player and, got out of the hands of and the people I've talked to down in Baton Rouge. They hated to see him go. So that was one Brian Kelly may look back on. But, guys, they grow 5-star players on trees down in Louisiana. So he's definitely welcomed in Oxford. And Austin Simmons, a former 4-star, is in Oxford as well. So they're 4 deep at quarterback. Last year, George, I think it was a little bit of a manufactured battle between Luke Ottmeyer and Jackson Dart. Dart, of course, the transfer out of USC, was fresh last year. This year, I don't think it's a lot of manufacturing. I think it's a lot more of a battle than people think. Spencer Sanders has had a really good fall camp. He played well in the spring. He played really good, I thought, in the scrimmage that we were able to see last Saturday. Neither quarterback played particularly well, but I thought Sanders probably played a little bit better. Once again, it's a scrimmage. You're going to blow the whistle at the line of scrimmage. It's not conducive to having a lot of rushing stats. But I think right now, George, if most people believe that it will be Jackson Dart at the quarterback position. Don't know how razor thin it is, but it's much closer than it was last year between he and Altmaier for sure.
Brad, are you surprised Spencer Sanders chose a place where the competition was going to be fierce and at best he would win it by a hair?
Right. I think, George, that's a great question. And when he decided to transfer to Ole Miss, remember, Ole Miss had one quarterback, and that was Jackson Dart. So the recruiting sale to Spencer Sanders was, you can come in and compete for the job. Little did he know they would get Austin Simmons, a 4-star out of Florida, not to mention not a graduate, but a transfer in LSU quarterback Walker Howard, the former 5-star quarterback. So he had no idea that Walker Howard was going to transfer. And one day you call me and I'll tell you that transfer story. It's a wild one about how he ended up at Ole Miss. All about a trainer, about a manager, someone knows somebody. And it was really an interesting story. At the end of the day, there's plenty of competition. George, I think Spencer Sanders, once again, I think he will play. I think there'll be packages available for him. Remember, he had that right shoulder throwing issue when he left Oklahoma State. In the spring, he said he was about 65%. We interviewed exclusively for Inside the Rebels. And honestly, George, he looked at us and said it feels really good. And if it's anywhere from 95% to 100, we saw him throw it really well this past Saturday. So I think without a question, his shoulder is a lot better. But, I think he's running second. Here's the thing. We said on our podcast the other day, the Red and Blue Crew, which is available on iTunes and Spotify right now, is that the best scenario for Ole Miss is that Jackson Dart is the starting quarterback and that Spencer Sanders is an incredibly serviceable second-team quarterback. And, oh, by the way, you've got a running quarterback in Walker Howard that can come in as well. So that's the best scenario, I think, going forward for Ole Miss when it kicks off in a couple of weeks.
Wow. Billy, if you will, throw the picture of Ole Miss's stadium, that corner shot that you had. Here's where I want to go with this, Brad. I remember when I was a student at Vandy, where frankly this stadium at the time, Vaught-Hemingway Stadium, really wasn't much nicer than Vandy's. And I look around now and what they have done there, and certainly Lane Kiffin has helped some of this, fueling this fan base. Talk to me about where that fan base is right now with all this.
Well, I just got a notification that the LSU game on campus is officially a hard sellout. We had Keith Carter on the program last week, and he said that ticket sales were a little bit better than last year. So at this time last year. And last year they sold roughly 38,000 tickets, I think, season tickets. You'll have to remember the student section is going to get 10, visitors are going to get 7 or 8. So there's only roughly 4,000 season tickets to go. If they're a little bit ahead of schedule, you have to think that Ole Miss is about 2,000 season tickets away from a tight sellout across the board. It's a pretty good home schedule. But you talk about the stadium. And where you saw the two video boards up above there, that used to be aluminum bleachers in the north end zone and the south end zone that you remember.
Yes.
They had, concrete sides on each side. It was, nothing special. Back in 2002, as you see there on the video board, that's the north end. On the south end, you'll see the stadium club and that sort of thing. That was built back in 2002. Right there, the Billy put up. That was built in 2002 on the south end zone. The north end zone was built a couple of years ago under the direction of Ross Bjork, who's now at Texas A&M. It's a complete bowl. It seats roughly 62,000. Now, they had a big Champions Now campaign. We had the executive director on our program earlier this week. We had Denson Hollis, and he talked about how the NIL just kind of changed everything because Ole Miss had a $200 million Champions Now campaign. They were going to redo the west side, put brand new chairbacks and that sort of thing. So that kind of put that on halt. They're kind of figuring out the NIL game.
Yep.
But he told me just the other day that they are about 20% ahead of where they thought they would be this year. So the finances are going good, but that's how the stadium has changed over the last couple of years for sure.
That is terrific. Kelly, say hello to Brad Logan.
Brad, how you doing, man?
Kelly, doing well. It's nice to see you today.
Hey, man, my apologies that George. Sorry.
we go way back.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that. Well, let me go back to what he talked about because at the SEC Media Days, obviously, Lane Kiffin talked about the transfer portal, and I think he was totally right. I really do. But looking at stuff and reading over stuff, I mean, he's had 30 transfers come in this year. I think Ole Miss was ranked 6th nationally with getting transfers in. So out of all those guys, I know you got a couple of receivers. I know you got a running back from Oregon State. Who has impressed the most out of the transfers?
Well, Kelly, let me say this first of all. A great question was asked of Lane Kiffin not long ago is, Coach, how is the locker room supposed to be together when you have so many transfers coming in and out of the program? And he said, it's hard. He didn't mince words. It's hard to have that cohesive unit. So the good news is you've got people like Cedric Johnson that is a 3-year starter, that is a senior on the defensive line that's going to be really good. So he's kind of keeping things together. But to answer your question, you've got transfer linebackers. Monty Montgomery, he's out of Louisville. You got John Jean Baptiste out of Central Florida. He's the other linebacker. They're both a little undersized, but I think playing in this Pete Golding system, they're going to do really well. We had a chance to visit with Monty Montgomery during the Ole Miss Media Day, and he's excited because he likes the system. It's going to be basically a 4-2-5 with an opportunity to walk one of the cornerbacks up, and then they're calling that a specific position. At the end of the day, you got 4 down linemen, 2 linebackers, and 5 defensive backs. And this is probably the deepest Ole Miss has been across that defensive front in probably 20 years. They've recruited very well at that position, and they've got some depth pieces there. J.J. Pegues, Stephon Wynn has transferred in. Jared Ivey, the transfer out of Georgia Tech, has looked pretty good this year, so they've got some depth there. They're waiting on the clearance of Zachary Franklin, the transfer out of UTSA, had a big year last year, and they're expecting big things out of him at wide receiver. I think the number one guy I'm looking at is the transfer tight end, the all-conference tight end of Caden Prescorn out of the University of Memphis. Ole Miss had Michael Trigg last year, and it just really didn't work out too well. He's a transfer, highly touted transfer out of USC. He's got some competition this year. Caden Prescorn looks really good, along with Kylan Heath. Hudson Wolf is a true sophomore that's been injured his entire career. So that tight end position is one I think Ole Miss fans are excited about. But I think if you really look at one position, it's absolutely going to be Caden Prescorn, the tight end. Although, if you really pin me down, I might say it might be Victor Kern. He's pushing Eli Acker for that starting right guard spot. Victor Kern is out of the University of Washington. He was a big get for Ole Miss out of the portal. But, you pin one down, I'll be honest with you, Billy, this team is so full of transfers that it's hard to keep a too-deep roster. And I can only imagine how difficult it is to have that cohesive unit inside. But, Ole Miss is not on an island there. So many programs are seeing so many transfers come and go. It's just a new world when it comes to college football.
Yeah, that all sounds good. And I think people when he was at Alabama and Lane Kiffin likes to throw the ball around, but I think it was kind of a surprise last year. You had a true freshman come in, and the Judkins kid who ranked second in rushing, setting a record with freshman rushing record. So looks like you got a really good cohesive offensive line coming back. You got 4 of the 5 starters. Will they be more balanced? Will they run the ball quite a bit? What's going on at Ole Miss?
Well, at one point last year, Ole Miss was leading the SEC in rushing. A lot of people think that Lane Kiffin is synonymous for throwing the ball around, but what he likes to do is he really runs a lot of sweeps, a lot of tosses. And I think what you'll see too is with Quinshon Judkins getting a bevy of the carries, Jam Griffin, a transfer running back out of Oregon State, has just landed. He's been practicing with the team. He's playing really well. One reason he went to the portal this late in the game is Ulysses Bentley is hurt once again. The transfer out of SMU just has not been able to stay healthy. And they've got freshman running back Kedrick Riscano out of the Miami, Florida area. That's, of course, Kevin Smith, the running back coach's backyard. So they've got some depth at running back. If you'll remember last year, Ole Miss and Alabama, the Rebels have a chance to win that game late in the game, and Quinshon Judkins just couldn't go. At that point, Zach Evans had been knocked out. And once again, you talk about Ulysses Bentley. He was hurt at that point during the season last year, so nobody could come in. But they've got a little bit of depth there, and so they're excited about that. So I think you're to see them run the ball a lot. Nick Broker's in the NFL, but you talk about Victor Kern and Eli Acker at that guard spot. Jeremy James has been a staple. He's an all-conference right tackle, and I think they're really excited about that offensive front, being able to run the football. Once again, I think the question mark, Billy, is at wide receiver, simply because Jordan Watkins returns the transfer from Louisville, had a pretty good year last year, but he's been dealing with a hamstring injury. Zachary Franklin still has not practiced, although they expect him to possibly be ready by the Mercer game. And they don't have anybody that's really stepped up, with the exception of Dayton Wade, a walk-on, who played pretty well last year. They need some things out of Jalen Knox, the transfer receiver out of Missouri. But keep an eye out for number 1 on the roster. That's Aiden Williams. He's a 4-star out of Ridgeland High School in Mississippi. He's a true freshman, and he is really shining in fall camp. So keep an eye out for him. They really need also Braylon Brown to step up. Braylon Brown has not been effective like they thought he would be. A lot of unanswered questions in that wide receiver room, so I'll be watching that one for opening game as well.
I got you. Yeah, I was reading about the Aiden Williams kid. He seems like he's pretty good, and he's impressed a lot of folks. So my last deal here is me being a quarterback, and I know y'all have already discussed it, but it looks like they got a quarterback room full of 4 guys that can play. How do you keep everybody happy? I don't know how you do that in the world of this transfer portal. It's like free agency for the NFL, which I came up a little bit, but with the transfer portal, can you keep all those guys there? Or is somebody going to be a disgruntled employee?
That's a good question. And, with this day and age of the NIL world of transfers in and out, you have to keep everybody happy. There's only one ball to go around. But I think the way that they've got this thing in order, you've got Jackson Dart, who's got one more year after this. You got Spencer Sanders, who's a graduate transfer. Then you hand it off to a Walker Howard. And then in Austin Simmons, who's a true freshman, can battle it out for playing time. And maybe they play some form of 2-quarterback system. So I don't expect Walker Howard expects to play a ton this year. Austin Simmons is coming in with the notion he's coming in to get better. I don't expect him to redshirt. I expect him to play. The one thing, George, I'd love your thoughts. The days of redshirting feels like it's come and gone, because players are coming in, they're expecting to play a year or two, and they're going to the National Football League. So I think more than anything.
Hey, Brad, it's funny you bring that up, because I just asked that question a couple of days ago. How do you redshirt when they can take one look at you and say, you try that, and I'm going in the portal?
Yeah, I just think the days of redshirting, specifically specialty positions. Now, maybe offensive linemen, maybe defensive backs, if they're young, and say, yeah, you know what, I need a year in the system. But I just think the days of redshirting are gone. But, yeah, I think easily you keep that room happy. Austin Simmons is not really expected to play. I think there'll be a package for Walker Howard, and I think there'll be a package for Spencer Sanders without question. I think 3 of those guys will play probably against Mercer. Things will settle down, and they'll get ready for that big game down in New Orleans against Tulane. It'll be 30,000 crazy Cajuns going nuts. It'll be about 5,000 Ole Miss fans, and it'll be about 2,000 degrees, because it's 2:30 on ABC. And in the Big Easy, there'll be sweating margaritas in the stands.
I love it. By the way, there's a good casino downtown. Check it out.
I'm well aware of the Grand Casino there, George. We don't need to get in my personal life, okay? They took my light bill a couple of years ago.
Wow, that is a tragedy. Okay, so those of you who have been watching, you've figured out by now Brad Logan knows his stuff. Where can they hear you?
We have two podcasts. One is the Believe in Ole Miss podcast. That's part of the Believe Network. Second podcast we have in the part of the 247 Sports family is the Red and Blue Crew. Everything is housed under the Twitter feed at Brad Logan COTE. We tweet everything out from there. And, of course, George, you so kindly pointed out we're part of Inside the Rebels. That's Rebs247.com. That's a part of the 247 Sports family.
You know, if you play your cards right, you could be invited to the next Ferris Bueller's Day Off with Plaster and Cutcliffe.
George, that would be an absolute dream come true.
I know it would be.
Really would.
I know how much you respect him. I got to tell you, it was funny because I said to him at one point, we go from great seats to this club where they had a restaurant, then back to the press box. And I said, David, this is Ferris Bueller's Day Off. And he started laughing.
Yeah.
He's like, it really is.
Hey, Billy, did George have a hard time getting into the office today, getting through the door, having to turn his head sideways because it was so big?
Wow.
That's a good line right there.
Wow. And I gave him the chance to promo all these things he does. Wow.
Like
he knows you. He knows you.
He does know me. Put those sunglasses on.
We're going to rock and roll today as we get ready for college football.
Look at that. Look at the reflection.
I love it.
I like it.
Wow. Brad, thank you as always.
Always a pleasure, George. Anytime, buddy.
Great stuff. This man knows his Ole Miss Rebels. Brad Logan gets us kicked off in a great way. After the break, more about the SEC West. Is Alabama, for a change, not necessarily the favorite? We'll come back in a moment.
As the trusted premier custom home builder in Middle Tennessee, Donnelly Timmons has over 20 years of experience in the industry. Whether you're looking to build your dream home or renovate your current home, their team will ensure that every client and every remodel is unique, luxurious, and completed on time within budget. Founders Dustin Timmons and Joey Donnelly have over 25 years of construction experience in the Nashville area. Together, they have completed projects in Forest Hills, Oak Hill, Green Hills, Franklin, and Brentwood. Dustin and Joey believe that communication is the most important aspect of all construction projects. Therefore, they personally manage each project themselves and are involved in job site activities on a daily basis. Their commitment to quality and integrity has earned them an outstanding reputation among their clients. Contact them to set an appointment for a free consultation or to view some of their completed projects. Give them a call at 615-456-7983 or log on to DonnellyTimmons.com.
For over 35 years, Wilson Bank & Trust has been committed to providing customized banking solutions to help individuals, families, and businesses in Tennessee achieve their goals. As your full-service community bank, we are proud to offer loans with competitive rates, local decision-making, and fast, friendly service from our experienced lenders. No matter where you are on your financial journey, Wilson Bank & Trust is ready to help you take the next step. Visit your nearest Wilson Bank & Trust office or online at wilsonbank.com to get started today. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
Family owned and operated for more than 2 decades, Alaco Fine Wood Floors is Nashville and Middle Tennessee's choice for premium quality hardwood floors. Since 1995, Jimmy Alaco and his army of employees have embodied the approach of taking pride in one's craft and providing superior customer service, growing from a one-man shop to a team of 23 professionals who share the founder's passion for quality craftsmanship and customer satisfaction. If you are interested in contacting them, you can find their headquarters at 2505 Winford Avenue in Berry Hill, or give them a call at 615-356-0303. Again, that's 615-356-0303, or log on to alacofinewoodfloors.com. Alaco Fine Wood Floors, serving Middle Tennessee's hardwood flooring needs since 1995.
At Baird, we have a different slant on global financial advice. That global capabilities mean nothing without personal attention. We have investor relationships in 35 countries and market expertise in over 40 industry verticals, all to help make the most important investment connections of all, yours. Global financial advice with a client-first approach. It's the shape of things to come. Discover the Baird difference at BairdDifference.com.
That is the $1 Million Band at the University of Alabama. They're pretty good. So is their football team. Let's look at what went on a year ago in the SEC West and think about it. Kelly, if Auburn and A&M are the worst teams in your division, that's a pretty damn good division.
It's pretty big time right there. And Billy just talked about Auburn coming to a starting quarterback and Texas A&M having the kind of season that they had last year with all the recruits they had coming in and one of the top classes in the country, and then just couldn't get it together. Arkansas, for some reason, George, Arkansas, the last couple of years has been really good at the beginning of the year, and then you start thinking they're going to be good, and then they have this 4-game slump, and I don't understand it. And then we just talked to Brad Logan about Ole Miss. I think they're going to be balanced this year, but I just don't know. Everybody says the right things, George, about the quarterback room. I just don't know how you do that. Spencer Sanders has been the guy that at Oklahoma State that's played quite a bit. Obviously, he's a grad guy. He's come in there. I just don't know how you keep all those dudes happy. I really don't. The day of the transfer portal is just crazy to me, and I just don't know how you do it.
Well, I think you're dead on right. I mean, Sanders didn't go there with the idea of being a backup.
Correct.
If he did, then he doesn't have the competitive juices that I think he does. But Kelly, he had to know going in that this was not going to be easy. Not that Jackson Dart was Archie Manning or anything close to it. I thought he was very inconsistent. But I'm with you. I mean, I think there comes a point in that quarterback room that could get a little tense.
It would be cool to be a fly on the wall and to hear what the coaches were telling Spencer Sanders, because they had to be in contact with him, telling him what's happening, what's going on. I got a shot. You got a shot. I don't know. We'll see. Then you got the Mississippi State deal where the unfortunate thing happened to their head coach last year. So it's going to be interesting to see how Mississippi State's offense is, because Mike Leach wanted to throw it all over the place. And the defensive coordinator is taking over, and defensive coordinators don't like that. They don't like when you take 13 seconds off 3 plays and you incomplete every pass. They're not a big fan of that. So I'm sure they're going to be more balanced. They still got Will Rogers, who's a really good player. He can throw the football. So that's going to be interesting to see about those guys. And then the two top teams, I don't know if Alabama can, everybody keeps saying that, and you hear this, and we had a guy on about a month ago talking about Nick Saban. He thought that he had the worst coaching staff of his career. I don't know that, but the thing is, everybody always says, yeah, but they still got Nick Saban. Yeah, but they still, well, okay, we'll see. But they don't have a starting quarterback either yet. So I don't know. The one dude that they do have is at LSU. That kid's pretty good. I mean, I always say it, but he got hollered at quite a bit by Brian Kelly at the beginning of the year. But then he started playing some really good football, and he's played a lot of football because he started as a freshman at Arizona State under Herm Edwards. So I think that's just up for grabs, George. I don't think it's Alabama's division anymore. You could, up until now, you could always say Alabama's going to win the SEC West. You could always say that. Well, that's not the case anymore.
After Alabama and LSU at the top, would y'all agree, talking about up for grabs, that it's anybody's game from 3 to 7?
Oh my God, yes,
absolutely,
absolutely. That's most years, but I mean, this is crazy. Some of the the low floors and the high ceilings of a lot of teams. Like I could see Ole Miss going 7-5 this year, but I could also see them going 10-2 and having a really good season. Same with Arkansas, and I think same for A&M. I mean, they didn't make a bowl game last year.
You want to thought about a year from now, they're going to add Texas and Oklahoma. And whether, they're not going to do divisions, but they're going to have these teams in here. And I look around, guys, there are going to be some schools, fan bases who are pissed off at going 5-4 in the league who ought to think they're lucky stars.
Yeah, that's what.
The SEC is awfully close to the National Football League. I guess you could say that about the Big Ten too. But with all the NIL money, I mean, kids getting paid, transfer portal. I mean, I don't understand how. Nick Saban talks about culture. Lane Kiffin talked about culture. I don't know how you build a culture when there's so much turnover, and you get a guy that doesn't want to compete, thinks he ought to be playing, gets mad, gets upset, leaves. It's a different world today, George, in college football and in college sports than it was when I played and when you grew up. I don't know, but talking to that guy and talking about Ole Miss, don't be surprised if Ole Miss is up there too, because they can do one thing that a lot of teams can't. They can run the football.
Yep.
And they got 4 of their starting 5 offensive linemen back. And they've got they found out about a freshman guy last year that ran the ball really well, and they just got a transfer from Oregon State, that Jam Griffin kid. So you can always rely on the run game, and if you can pound people with that, you can control the clock, you can win some games.
Don't sleep on Arkansas either. KJ Jefferson is one of the better quarterbacks in the league.
I agree.
Rocket Sanders is a hell of a running back.
But I'm like Kelly. Every time they start out 4-1, Arkansas, let's call the hog.
They lost A&M last year. That was a downer.
That was a big loss for them.
In Arlington, where they usually play them.
And it seemed to send them into a real funk.
Yeah. And they weren't very good defensively. They weren't very physical. Coach Pittman has talked about getting back to that physicality. And I expect they will,
because he's a big old slobber knocker.
Yeah, I mean they're not a finesse team. They're going to try to run it up your throat. So
and KJ Jefferson fits that team perfectly too, because he can throw the football, but my goodness, man, he can pull it down and run, and he's like a fullback. He's so big.
Couple of thoughts about the West. If it comes down to Alabama and LSU, the big game is in Tuscaloosa this year.
Yep.
Advantage, roll tide. On the bottom, do we really think Auburn and A&M are going to go a combined 4-12 in the league? I mean, I think both of them are going to be better. If A&M isn't, Jimbo's out.
Yeah.
They're prepared to pay, like Saudi Arabian money to get him the hell out of there.
And Hugh Freeze is a really good coach, but I don't see the talent at Auburn. Now they've recruited. Not yet. It's just not there yet. Now this next class is going to be loaded, but Auburn could be a team like Florida last year that just sort of loses interest a little bit, maybe down the stretch. Now I could be wrong, but I don't know about. I think Auburn's a year away from competing at the top of the West.
I can't wait. So we're 9 days away from some college football on August 26th, and then Labor Day weekend.
Little trivia here. What's the first college football game on American soil?
On American soil is Jacksonville State and UTEP.
Correct.
Oh, wow, George. Wow. Unbelievable.
Notre Dame Navy's the first game technically,
Dublin.
but it's in Dublin.
And among those who will be there, Pete and Claudia Weber. Pete's a huge Notre Dame guy. So they're going over.
That's a fun trip.
Yeah, I can't wait to hear how that all turns out. Anyway, that's just a thought or two about the SEC West. Next week, we'll get a little deeper into it. I see Danny Evans in the on-deck circle. Danny, I was in Atlanta Monday for the Bravos, and the Yankees loved it. We'll talk about it and more. Maybe get you a stat of the day that we won't probably do well at. We got plenty more coming, so stick around. Do not go anywhere.
Forget the fact that Sir Speedy Music City is owned by my BGA classmate James Warren. Their work stands on its own merit. James and his staff do incredible work, as evidenced by the huge banners at the Plaster and Friends Celebrity Bowling Night. If you're looking for quality to help your marketing and business communications, and you want it at a reasonable price, these are your folks. Call them at 615-832-9511 or go to print at sirspeedymusiccity.com. And be sure to tell them Plaz sent you.
Convenience and value, two words that we expect when we do business. Our goal at JHA Company is to deliver just that, both to our school partners and to our customers. Whether you're purchasing photos, yearbooks, class jewelry, letter jackets, school spirit wear, or senior graduation products, we strive to make the experience easy, convenient, and cost-effective. Find out more at jhacompany.com or call 615-867-6345 for more information. JHA, one source, one company.
Hey, thank you for meeting with me today. The insurance company has made an offer.
Already? Wow.
They've offered you the entire policy.
Thank you, Blair.
You're so welcome.
Hello, this is Celeste Middleton, a State Farm agent in Murfreesboro, Tennessee. I want to help my neighbors and local businesses be proactive and assess their risk before something unexpected happens. We want you to have a thorough understanding of your coverages to have the best protection when you need it. We can create a personal price plan for you. Our team has over 70 years of experience helping people in Middle Tennessee. We have an awesome team with integrity and provide honest and prompt communication, and we love what we do and genuinely care about everyone we work with at our office. Give us a call at 615-895-2700. Send us a message at celestemiddleton.com or walk in at our office at 803 North Thompson Lane in Murfreesboro. We would love to earn your business.
Welcome to John English Antique Sports and Cards, located at 204 East Depot Street in beautiful downtown Shelbyville, Tennessee. Their phone number is area code 931-492-4304. John, obviously, I've been blown away by what I've seen at your place. I've now been there 3 times. But for the person who's never been, what should they expect?
Well, we have a 3,000 square foot store, George. Half of it is vintage cards in all sports. And then half of the store is, a lot of people call it the museum, where there's a lot of early equipment and just the history of sports in general. Baseball, football, basketball, golf, tennis, and other items.
When somebody comes in there that you know is a big sports fan, what is their normal reaction?
Well, I think that they're pleasantly surprised. And, of course, being in Shelbyville, Tennessee, which is a small town that you would never expect a shop like we have to be in. So they're kind of, I don't want to say blown away, but as I said, pleasantly surprised.
Top of the hour on a Thursday. That means stat of the day and Danny Evans talking a little baseball. But first, John English Antique Sports and Cards brings us stat of the day. You can find them out in Shelbyville at 204 East Depot Street. They're open during the week Tuesday through Friday from noon to 5 and Saturdays from 10 a.m. to 5. Give them a call, 931-492-4304. All right, let's check out what Butch has cooked up for us today. We are just 9 days away from the start of college football. What is the highest total score for a national championship game in college football history?
Okay, Kelly, the first one that comes to mind for me is when Clemson went off against Alabama, and it was something like 44-24. 68 total points in that game.
In the national championship game. That the Oklahoma game against Georgia. That wasn't the national championship game.
Yeah, that was the semi, and that was the first one I thought about, but it was a semifinal game.
Mm-hmm.
Texas. Wait a minute. Texas and USC ended up being like 40-35. The Vince Young. When he ran it in the corner and Keith Jackson said, "To the corner!" Yeah.
Hold on, George. What about Alabama? What about Alabama and Ohio State a couple of years ago with Mac Jones? Didn't Alabama score like 52 and Ohio State had?
You know what? You're right. They absolutely mangled Ohio State. Okay.
Yeah, but Ohio State came through. I mean, they had a couple of late touchdowns, I think.
Yeah, cheapies. Okay, it's either that one or Texas USC. Let's see which one it is.
Alabama and Clemson, 2016.
Oh, hello.
When Alabama beat Clemson 45-40.
Wow.
So you were thinking about the one that Clemson won?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, this is when Alabama beat them.
I got the right teams.
You did.
That's got to be worth.
Kenyon Drake had a long kickoff return.
Wow.
Right around halftime. It might have been right out of the start of the third quarter that sort of elevated Alabama.
That should get me a good consolation prize.
Half a point.
Let's check in with Danny Evans. This man knows more baseball than any human being any of us know. The former Dodger general manager. Danny, how are you?
I'm doing well, and I know less about football than most people on the planet, George. So it's offset very nicely.
So you know about my little trip.
I do.
Had a blast. And I believe the Braves buried the Yankees once and for all. What do you think?
Yeah, not only in that series, but nationally. I think a lot of people are now looking at the Yankees as being on the outside looking in. There's been a lot of rumblings about what's going on with them. You know, the end of an extended period of plus 500 seasons, playoffs. They've had 30 consecutive seasons where they've played over 500. And George, I'll tell you what, I think too, the other thing that you did is that you know, a little birdie told me you were a little worried going in to those games against the New Yorkers, but there was nothing to be worried about when those 6 or 7 games were over.
Yeah, you're right. So Aaron Boone is the one that likely is going to walk the plank when this is all said and done. But how much of this is Brian Cashman's fault? The fact that their farm system, really other than Volpe, doesn't seem to be bringing anything to help.
Yeah, you know, George, they've gone through a period where they haven't produced like they used to. You know, if you think about the core 4, they're all their guys. You know, that's just something that the Yankees did for an extended period, but they just haven't done it the same. And I'm going to not point the finger at anybody in particular because I think it's a philosophical situation. You don't know how much ownership gets involved. You only know that when you're on the inside. But I think in New York City, it's imperative that you compete. And it was imperative that they competed with the Mets this year, and little did they know they would. The only problem is on the wrong side of things. And when both New York teams don't compete in the postseason, there are usually a lot of, I would say, drastic moves made to get back into the race. But I think looking back, one of the big changes in 2023 was the balanced schedule. And I think the Yankees are lucky that the balanced schedule is in place, because if it weren't, they'd be playing the other 4 teams in their division 19 times, and their one-loss record might even be worse.
Interesting thought. I hadn't really given it much thought. Now, I'm going somewhere that we're all going to laugh, but under George Steinbrenner, and you knew a lot more about his annex than I did. I've read more about it. What would this have been like if George were alive?
I knew George really well. There was a sense of urgency every minute on earth if you worked for the Yankees. A quick story, guys. If they lost a home game, nobody was allowed to leave their desk for an hour after the game. So people would literally sit at their desk, and he would randomly call somebody. And if you weren't there, all heck broke loose. So I think, Type A isn't doing him justice. He was a great guy if you didn't have to work for him. If you worked for him, it was intense. And I think what we're going to see is we're going to see his son in their first really disappointing year is going to have to set the tempo for what's next. And, George, in that division, especially with the Orioles' resurgence, it's not as easy as it is in other ones to become a more competitive team.
Gosh, what a division. So, Danny, you'll love this. I have done a little show prep, and this will send Kelly into oblivion, as to what right now are the top 5 teams in Major League Baseball. And I'm going to surprise Kelly a little bit. Billy, go ahead and put this up here. I've got the Dodgers now dead even with Atlanta. They have won everything in sight in August. And Danny, they're there. I mean, this is not Atlanta's anymore with no competition the way it felt like a month ago. The Dodgers are back.
Yeah, and George, you know what? The obituaries that were being written about the Dodger franchise about a month and a half ago, I mean, I was laughing at it because they're just too good. Now they're going to get Kershaw. Now they got Kershaw back. He pitched well again last night. They're going to get Walker Buehler back. And all of a sudden, a team that's probably a 97, 98 win team gets even better. I think Atlanta's going to remain the home field advantage, but I think those 2 teams are clearly the class of the National League. And George, what's amazing right now, the Dodgers have a 10-game lead in the NL West. I think your third club is dead on. I think the Orioles have displayed they're not a fluke. Their starting pitching doesn't appear dominant, but they do everything they can to win. George, those last 2 teams, Texas, Tampa Bay, that's a couple of really good ball clubs. I would say Houston should be considered in that group too, but I think you're spot on. I think the Dodgers, their trades kind of went under the radar. They didn't make the big splash deals, but the guys they did trade for have all made significant impact to their club. You think about Lynn, think about Rosario, Hernandez. They've all done their job really well. And I think what we're seeing now is that usual Dodger surge in August, which candidly for the last 3 or 4 years, George, they're 58 games over 500 in August. They just pull away. They get in the left lane. George, they know how to win. And now that they're getting healthy, that is a dangerous club to play.
Okay, I asked Danny, to put a picture in here of Charlie Morton because to me, he is the big question mark of how far the Braves are going to go in postseason. Last night, he was brilliant. He had total command of his curveball, but it's been sort of a hit or miss with him throughout the year. And Danny, I would claim that at some point, if they're going to win it all, they've got to have last night's Charlie Morton.
I don't disagree with you, George. I think he's a very unheralded guy. I remember going to a game a year or two ago, and I watched him pitch the whole game. And I thought to myself, I don't give this guy enough credit. When this guy's on, he is nasty. That's a filthy curveball. The spin is over 3,000 RPMs. I think, George, here's one of the pluses. You know, he's been there before, and I think that's a big advantage. And when you have more rest in the postseason, which he will, I think he's got a chance to dominate. And I think he's got a chance to be really, really good. A dominant or at least above average Charlie Morton really deepens that rotation. And a curveball guy, George, neutralizes offside guys. So a right-handed curveballer neutralizes left-handed hitters. It's just the way the game is. Subsequently, a lefty with a curveball has he really dominates right-handed hitters. And I think if you look at the National League clubs, there's a lot of great left-handed bats that are going to be in the postseason. Charlie Morton's on. Charlie Morton's going to do a really good job.
Okay, I'm going to get to blasphemy here.
Uh-oh.
Want to talk about Ohtani for a minute?
Yeah.
So we all know how great this young guy is. I mean, he's so much fun. Danny, I wonder, he has never really been able to pitch a full season without some level of injury that forces him to shut down the pitching part. Is it possible, whether he's an Angel a year from now or a Yankee or wherever, with all that money, is it possible that his pitching future is as a closer?
Wow. You know, I've seen him close, George. It's pretty impressive. I've seen him close twice in person, and it's exceptional. But, you know, in today's game, George, how many guys go the whole season without going on the shelf or skipping a turn? It's unheard of in today's game. I mean, I think there's 2 teams that have had 7 starters this year, and the rest are almost all in double digits. So I think, you know, this is a guy who I think the DH helps him because he doesn't have to go out and play the field and do a lot of throwing. You know, I'm the biggest Ohtani fan on the planet. I look at him and I just think it's usual wear and tear. I mean, that's a real aggressive, great physical delivery. He's going to have a ding here and there, just like most guys. But I think this guy is special. And for me, I love the idea, the closing part of it. But at the same time, I think as a starter, he has more value to your team because he yields dominance almost every time he comes to the game.
Oh, yeah.
George, you got to get to the closer. And if you don't get to him, that guy at the end of the game doesn't matter. But I think ultimately that is his role, much like John Smoltz. I think it's a great example of harnessing a guy a bit, balancing 10 to 20 pitches. Imagine how incredible he would be coming out. We saw it with Trout in the WBC. He came out and he destroyed Team USA at the end of that game.
Yeah. So if you had to put a percentage on the Angels' chances to re-sign him, what would be your percentage?
I don't know about the percentage, George, but they'll be in there for a couple different reasons. His interpreter is from Orange County. He's had a great experience there. He really likes the people there. His agent is only about 5 miles away in the offices of CAA. So I think they've got an ideal situation, and I think their actions at the deadline indicated that they were all in. But I think there's going to be a lot of clubs playing on him. You know, there's been speculation about teams the entire season. Nobody's tipping their hand. My guess is this guy is going to have one of the most ridiculous recruitments that we've ever seen. And I think it's well deserved because he's a franchise player, and his off the field benefits from a marketing standpoint are so lucrative that this guy brings a lot to the table.
You know, it's going to have the catfish hunter feel from the 70s. It was the first time we ever had free agency, and he played it to the max. Went everywhere, and I think you're right. I think it's going to be a lot like that.
Yeah, and I think there's going to be some clubs that sadly won't participate, either because they're just, you know, poorly run, have no vision, or they don't really have the aggressive nature. But if you're a club and you're looking for a bat and you're looking for an arm, this guy's in the prime of his career, George. He'll be a 29-year-old free agent. That's the kind of guy you bet on. And regardless of the speculation, what's the biggest determination when it comes to value? That's supply and demand. There's only one like him. There's only been one like him. And demand is going to be exceptional. So I think what we're going to see is it play out at a level we've never seen before.
Do the Braves go after him?
I wouldn't doubt it. The Braves are very aggressive internationally. They actually had one of my clients, Kenshin Kawakami, years ago. Sure. And just imagine with their cost certainty, George, what they could do. You know, Alex Anthopoulos has been a fan of Ohtani's since he was a Blue Jay. So there's a lot to be said for also the winning tradition in Atlanta. And George, what an easy negotiating position if you're the Braves saying, hey, we've won and we're going to continue to win and our core is intact and will remain intact. That cost certainty and that, I would say, established winning presence is going to play well for any free agent this offseason.
Plays well on this show, too. Bring him on. After the break, Kelly Holcomb will join us. Danny Evans is our guest, and most of you already know it. This man knows as much, if not more, when it comes to baseball than any human being out there. Please stick around.
As a lot of you know, our show is now more than a year old, and that's a great testimony to some of the viewership that we have had from you all. So a big thank you right there. If you're new to all of this and you're wondering, how do we see the show? Here's some of the ways. Of course, you can watch it live 2 to 4 p.m. Monday through Friday. And the three biggest ways are Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. Now, if you're working or can't watch the show live, you know what? All this stuff is archived in podcast form through 2 different ways. Apple, Spotify, that's the way you do it. You can go Apple Podcast or Spotify, and you're probably sitting there saying, George, you don't know what any of these mean. Well, I'm learning. I can at least spit it out now. Hope that you will continue to enjoy our show because as football season revs up, we've got some great things planned. Thanks for being with us.
How am I going to get to work? My car's totaled.
Skylar, our team is making a call right now. We'll get you a rental car. Don't worry.
That's a relief.
Call us 24/7. We're here. We're going to help.
Year number 2 of the Plaster and Friends Celebrity Bowling Night was awesome. And the reason is really simple. I chose Strike and Spare, and they were amazing. They have great food, great bowling, and a staff that is truly ready to go the extra mile to help you. They have 5 family fun centers in the area to choose from. And for more info, go to strikeandspare.com or call them at 615-824-5685.
You can't see the sights without the sounds. From the crack of the bat to the roar of the crowd and everything in between, discover what Hit City has to offer. Spend your nights cheering on the Nashville Sounds at First Horizon Park with giveaways, fireworks shows, theme weekends, and more. Single game tickets are on sale now. Visit NashvilleSounds.com to claim your seat today.
I got caught there. We're back. Kelly, I always find your stuff with Danny to be very interesting.
Yeah, I don't know if I got anything. I feel as when Danny said that he knows absolutely nothing about football, I feel kind of the same way about baseball. I'm trying, but I try. How you doing, Danny?
By the way, are in the National League.
I do know that, George. Thank you. Next time I see you, I'm going to choke you just for that comment.
Yes.
Very nice.
So let's ask that. Let's just go off the Braves thing. Who is the biggest threat to the Braves? The Dodgers obviously won a lot of games in a row, but are the Phillies? Phillies went down there last year and beat them. So who's the biggest threat to Atlanta right now?
Kelly, right before this show, I took a look at the playoffs from 22, and I think we forget. I wrote it down. The Mets lose to the Padres. The Cardinals lose to the Phillies. The Blue Jays lose to the Mariners. Later on, the Bravos lose to the Phillies. The Dodgers lose to the Padres. And Cleveland loses to the Yankees. I think what typically happens, Kelly, is in these last 45 days, teams get hot that weren't hot the first 3 quarters of the season. And we don't know who that club is right now. If I were to bet on a team, I would say it'd be a team like Milwaukee, who has great starting pitching and has played well in close games, and a club that is kind of a sleeper team that is going to win, 85, 86, 87 games. But I look at them in the National League and I think, all right, they're going to have to go through a first series. There's no way they're going to surpass the Braves and surpass the Dodgers. So they're going to get the nerves out of their system in that initial first series. That first series propels teams. They get confidence. Guys get, 10 to 20 at-bats under their belt. They get a start. And Kelly, as a result, some teams figure it out. So my guess would be Milwaukee. And I think they're a dangerous team going into the postseason.
Wow, Milwaukee, huh?
Mm-hmm.
That's huge right there. I didn't think about it. Now, I was looking at it. They're obviously leading the National League Central, but I did not think about that because George and Billy were talking the other day, the Dodgers, the Phillies. So I was wondering. So I was reading something, and the only thing I remember about the Orioles a long time ago, they've had some bad teams, but the Cal Ripken Jr. years are long gone. But I was looking at something today. They've rated the #1 farm system in the league right now, and I was reading some stuff where everybody was just thinking that they're just going to be fortunate to be a wild card team. Are they really here to stay?
You bet they are, Kelly. They are sustained excellence for an extended period. The only thing that'll get in the way of their club is their ownership. Their leadership as a front office is real solid. They've maintained a lot of their staff and just changed the people at the top, and they've done a heck of a job. Mike Elias has done a great job with that club. But Kelly, here's the deal. They got a couple guys coming in the minor leagues that are elite players. I mean, we're talking top 10 prospects in the game. So as a result, what we're seeing now is the beginning of a long run. Their catcher, Rushman, for me, is a future Hall of Famer, a great leader. And Kelly, he has won everywhere he's been. High school, college, now the big leagues. This guy's a winning player, first pick in the country. This guy's an elite guy. So yes, the American League East and the American League is going to have to go through Baltimore quite a bit in the next 5 to 7 years.
So what about the Pirates? The Pirates have obviously got a good farm system. Are they coming as well?
You bet they are. They've got great leadership. They got a heck of a farm system. I think they're a year away from being really good. I mean, Kelly, remember those first couple months of the season when they were hovering around the top of the National League Central? I think they're going to come quick, and I think it's going to be next year. They've made some shrewd moves. Now they drafted a couple of really good guys in the most recent draft. I think they're a team to really look to, along with the Reds, in 2023 in the National League Central.
So I know this is going to make you and George happy, but I saw an article where the commissioner Manfred was talking about attendance. Attendance was up by like 9% since last year. So what do you think that contributes to? Is that part of the rules with the pitch clock, with not being able to throw over to first base? Well, what do you think is contributing to that, or people just getting back to the national pastime?
Heck of a good question. I think it's three things, Kelly. I think the rules, particularly the speed up rules, have really helped. A friend of mine told me today that he was able to bring his 7 and his 5-year-old, and they were home by 9:30. You know, that makes a big difference as a parent, as somebody who has a real life job. You know, that's a big deal. Number two, I think the pandemic slowing down, people have an excitement to come back to the ballpark and have fun. I know for me, it's been a big deal this year. I've loved just going to ball games again and not really worrying about as much as what was happening. But I think there's a third thing, and I think it's real. I think we have an influx of exciting players. I mean, I think of Dela Cruz. I think of Ohtani, Acuna. I think of some of these guys that have really hit the big leagues in the last couple of years. Julio Rodriguez with Seattle. And now we get a chance to see him in person, and we can go. I think as a result, some of those markets that weren't drawing, you take a look at Pittsburgh, another example, Baltimore, there's teams that haven't played well and haven't drawn, and now there's reason to come to the ballpark. Not only the players on the field, but success. And I think as a result, I think the game's thriving, Kelly, just absolutely thriving. And I think those three factors, you think about it, with the Mets, the Angels, and the Yankees all sputtering, the Red Sox sputtering, we've got an attendance increase of almost 10%. That's an extraordinary statement about where the game is today.
And that's pretty big. I was quite shocked with that. That's cool. And I know you and George love that. I get it, man. There's people going out to the ballpark. So we talked about it a couple of months ago about going to the College World Series or watching the College World Series and how exciting that was. Did you get into the Little League World Series?
I do. I watch it. I love it. It's so much fun. And you know what I love about it? I love the pure joy that the kids show. I don't like some of the coaches that are absurdly intense and, just it's like, come on, there's no reason to get that worked up. But I love the joy. And you know what I really love, guys? I love when they say favorite player or, give me something about you. And these kids at age 11 and 12 come back with stuff that you can't make up. And you read it on the program and you go, oh my God, that's awesome. This kid is all about a more current big league player. So you start to see who's popular among the 12-year-olds. Joe Posnanski is about to come out with a book, and George, I just finished it. Oh my God, it's awesome. It's coming out September 5th. It's Why I Love Baseball. And after I finished it a couple days ago, I realized that a lot of the reason you love the game is what goes on between the age of about 11 or 12 and 15, where you just get infatuated with the game. And when, Kelly, these kids are on, now I'm not going to tell you I'm scouting. It's not happening, okay? but like when Monique Davis came on a few years ago, yeah. I loved it. I loved that a girl competed at that high level. And I have friends that broadcast those games, and they tell me how much fun they have. That's a pretty neat experience. And Sunday there's a little league, big league game from the site of the Little League World Series, and it's always fun because the only people in the stands are the participants, are the kids, and it's just jubilant. It's great for the sport.
It's a real buzz. Danny, when I heard the answer you gave Kelly Monday night, I'm sitting outside the Truist Park. I'm waiting on David Cutcliffe, and I hear the organist start playing. It's about an hour before the game.
Yeah.
And it hit me. I still love being at a ballpark, and I'm 64 years old. I'm not 11 anymore, and it's still the same thrill for me it always was.
Yeah, and George, it's really funny. Yesterday, I've got a lifetime pass for Major League Baseball, which is really kind. They sent it to me for whatever reason. It was pretty cool. So I use it. I use it and I love it. I go to the ballpark by myself, and my girlfriend laughs because I go there early. I eat kettle corn, a couple hot dogs. I watch BP. I talk to my friends on the two teams. But George, here I am. I'm 63 years old. I've been in the game for 43 years. I get the same jolt. So yesterday, I have plans to meet a buddy of mine who's as bad as you and I. I mean, he's like so deep into baseball. And at about 9 o'clock, I had a couple of calls that I just couldn't change. And I knew I couldn't go to the game. And I was like a 7-year-old. I was so petulant. I was so bummed out. And I texted my friend and I said, listen, I'm really sorry. I can't go today. And he's like, oh, come on. You got to figure out a way. And I said, I know. That's what the logical part of my brain is saying. There is no way you can go. I said, but George, there's something about going to the ballpark that just fires me up.
Yes.
It's the sounds, it's the scent. What I love is I love walking up to the ballpark, and a lot of my friends give me a hard time because I say things like, wow, Chipper Jones is in Jersey. Check him out. He's walking into the ballpark. Anybody wearing a jersey, I just think it's hysterical. I'm just not a jersey guy. And every time I go, I realize that 20% of the ballpark's wearing a jersey. So maybe I should reconsider my thoughts.
Kelly, I didn't mean to butt in. If you got anything else, go.
No, you're good. No, you're good. I was just going to ask y'all, what did y'all think about the kid in the minor leagues that stole 5 bases, but he never got a hit? Did you see that?
It's amazing.
Jordan?
Yep.
It's amazing. And one of the things we've seen because of the rule changes this year is we've seen a huge rise in stolen bases. And I think it makes for a more exciting game. I think it's great.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm absolutely with you. So my last deal is, who's your MVPs up until this point? Who are you thinking right now?
Acuna, followed by Freddie Freeman, and it's closer than I thought. And I think Ohtani is a runaway in the American League. He's got a chance to have one of the 5 largest WAR postings in the history of the game. He's on a pace to have 12.5 WAR. That hasn't been accomplished since Carl Yastrzemski.
Wow.
I mean, it's a remarkable number to have a WAR in double digits, but he's going to have one of the all-time numbers, and nobody in the American League comes close.
Okay, let me try this one.
Yeah.
You've got Matt Olson third. In most years, he'd be a runaway.
Yeah.
God, have you looked at his numbers? It's unbelievable.
Oh, it's ridiculous. And one of the amazing things for me is, rookies are always going to have spurts where they look great and spurts where they look terrible. I think about Carroll in Arizona, who was the talk of baseball in the first 3 months of the season. But I think what we learn about this sport is when somebody puts together an entire season of elite play, I think sometimes we take it for granted because the guy gets on the board early, he plays great, and we don't even look at him anymore, George, Kelly. We don't look at him because we know he's having a great year. But there's guys out there who have been killing it since April. And what we're seeing the guys who are, I mean, Freddie Freeman's been great all year, but Freddie Freeman now is at an elite level. I mean, he's outplaying Acuna right now, but Acuna had a 4-month advance.
Yep.
But you take a look at Kyle Seager. Kyle Seager's having an unbelievable year. The greatest year perhaps by a shortstop ever. Kyle Seager won't get near Ohtani in the MVP. And I think it's fun to see, guys having elite seasons, but I think if you really look at it, the biggest challenge for me is the American League Cy Young Award and the National League Rookie of the Year. And I look at both of them and I go, I don't know. I really don't know.
It's fun stuff. Let's do it again next week.
I love it. George, quick, I was thinking about something. If Ted Turner owned the Braves and still owned Channel 17, can you imagine what Ted Turner would do with Ohtani on the market? Ooh. He did it for Messersmith. Imagine what he would do for Ohtani.
Now, Kelly, here's what he's talking about. Andy Messersmith was declared a free agent right as Ted Turner bought the Braves. And so he signs Andy Messersmith, gets him to wear, I think paid him some money to wear number 17. And his old station, WTCG, before it became TBS, he had Messersmith trying to wear as the last name Channel.
Exactly.
Wow.
That was brilliant marketing. But at the same time, I mean, just imagine what he would be like right now if he and Steinbrenner were still alive and still owning. Ohtani would be the happiest man on the planet. He's still going to be pretty happy.
Yeah.
But just imagine with those two involved.
No, you're right about that. Hey, thanks as always.
Have a great week, guys. See you later.
What a sobering thought, a bidding war between Ted Turner and George Steinbrenner for Ohtani.
Yeah, that's crazy, man. He's going to get paid anyway.
Yes, he is. After the break, Plaster bet of the day. Kelly, I don't know how to say this other than this segment is a commitment to excellence. It's a commitment to making people money until we go in the toilet. Until we go in the toilet, and then it won't be.
It's going to go in the toilet at some point. It may not, though. You might have a good streak going. I mean, but you can't use Al Davis' commitment to excellence. You can't do it.
No, but when he moved to L.A., it was commitment to empty seats.
That's right.
Kelly, do the losses start piling up week 0 or week 1? Or, I mean, how long does it take for
do the what? Did you say the lawsuits?
The losses.
No.
Oh, the losses. I was like lawsuits. Get great. The losses. I don't know. I don't think George is as good in football as he is in baseball. Although it is probably harder in baseball than it is to bet on football. But I don't know. He's going to have a little slump at some point, and then me and you are going to hammer this dude.
Yeah.
What has been your strategy? I mean,
he has no strategy.
I pick winners.
Oh gosh.
And tonight, Kelly, we're going to pick a football game. A meaningless preseason game.
Yeah, who cares?
Well,
I wouldn't pick a preseason game for it. But I told you this on the phone the other day. Like, people just betting on anything now.
Right.
It's crazy. I would never bet on a preseason game. Who cares?
When you put $100,000 on a little league game, you got a problem.
You got a problem. You need to go get help.
Yes. But until then, please listen to what I have to say. I am in fuego. We'll have the NFL pick next.
The George Plaster Show is Nashville's best sports talk, 2 to 4 p.m. Monday through Friday on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. There's a podcast version available on Spotify and Apple Podcast. Forget the fact that Sir Speedy Music City is owned by my BGA classmate James Warren. Their work stands on its own merit. James and his staff do incredible work, as evidenced by the huge banners at the Plaster and Friends Celebrity Bowling Night. If you're looking for quality to help your marketing and business communications and you want it at a reasonable price, these are your folks. Call them at 615-832-9511 or go to print at sirspeedymusiccity.com. And be sure to tell them Plaz sent you.
As the trusted premier custom home builder in Middle Tennessee, Donnelly Timmons has over 20 years of experience in the industry. Whether you're looking to build your dream home or renovate your current home, their team will ensure that every client and every remodel is unique, luxurious, and completed on time within budget. Founders Dustin Timmons and Joey Donnelly have over 25 years of construction experience in the Nashville area. Together, they have completed projects in Forest Hills, Oak Hill, Green Hills, Franklin, and Brentwood. Dustin and Joey believe that communication is the most important aspect of all construction projects. Therefore, they personally manage each project themselves and are involved in job site activities on a daily basis. Their commitment to quality and integrity has earned them an outstanding reputation among their clients. Contact them to set an appointment for a free consultation or to view some of their completed projects. Give them a call at 615-456-7983 or log on to DonnellyTimmons.com.
You know, starting to save for your future doesn't have to be difficult. Let Wilson Bank and Trust help tone up your financial goals this year. Our certificates of deposits or CDs can help your money work harder with our competitive rates, earning you more than ever before. WBT checking options allow you to earn rewards you can really use, like a high interest rate or cash back on check card purchases when you meet some e-banking qualifications. Visit your closest Wilson Bank and Trust office or online at wilsonbank.com to get started today. Member FDIC.
At Baird, we have a different slant on global financial advice. That global capabilities mean nothing without personal attention. We have investor relationships in 35 countries and market expertise in over 40 industry verticals, all to help make the most important investment connections of all, yours. Global financial advice with a client-first approach. It's the shape of things to come. Discover the Baird difference at BairdDifference.com.
Family owned and operated for more than 2 decades, Alaco Fine Wood Floors is Nashville and Middle Tennessee's choice for premium quality hardwood floors. Since 1995, Jimmy Alaco and his army of employees have embodied the approach of taking pride in one's craft and providing superior customer service, growing from a one-man shop to a team of 23 professionals who share the founder's passion for quality craftsmanship and customer satisfaction. If you are interested in contacting them, you can find their headquarters at 2505 Winford Avenue in Berry Hill, or give them a call at 615-356-0303. Again, that's 615-356-0303, or log on to AlacoFineWoodFloors.com. Alaco Fine Wood Floors, serving Middle Tennessee's hardwood flooring needs since 1995.
Final segment on a Thursday. High school football returns tonight. Cane Ridge and Mount Juliet, My TV 30, 7 o'clock kickoff there. Just a little note. You guys are looking for something to watch tonight. Also, some NFL preseason action. We'll see where George goes with Plaster's Bet of the Day, brought to you by Bart Durham Injury Law. Give him a call at 615-242-9000 or log on to bartdurham.com. All right, let's check out what happened last night, Kelly, and I think we know what happened already.
He won again, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Well, it's easy when the Braves are playing the Yankees. They suck.
They do
Wow.
suck.
They're bad.
They are bad. They're boring.
And Aaron Boone looks like he looks like a madman. I mean,
he looks like death warmed over. That team played with no spark in this 3-game series. And if you stay away from Aaron Judge, which the Braves were able to do, he got nothing done in that series. Everything was low outside. I mean, for him to get hits, he was going to have a broom.
Braves pitching just carved them up.
Yeah. So tonight, you've got an NFL preseason game. And when you try to bet this preseason stuff, you got to figure out who's playing and who isn't. Because ultimately, some of the people that will decide your financial nest egg a week from now will be bartenders. So, Kelly, Deshaun Watson is not playing.
Is this the back-to-back weeks you bet against the Browns? Did you bet against them last week?
I don't think so. Who'd they play?
I think he did. The Jets.
In the Hall of Fame game. You bet against
the Hall of Fame game.
That was 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, he lost that one.
No Deshaun Watson. Philly at home. If you must.
Kelly.
I mean, it's a preseason. Like, what are we doing? Like, you ought to be. I mean, yeah, whatever, George.
Kelly.
Whatever. Who cares?
Closely. EAGLES.
Fly, Eagles, fly.
I wish you could have been up there in Vet Stadium and they could have thrown you in jail.
Oh, because I knew you.
You don't understand. People don't understand that they had a jail underneath the stadium. It's crazy. Them Philly fans are wild, dude.
Frank Wycheck used to tell me about the 700 section, way up at the top of the old Vet.
99 cents.
Woo! No, it wasn't. Not for an Eagles game. The 700
So Tony
level,
was just joking about that.
No, he was talking about with the Phillies.
Oh,
because they both played in the Vet. The Vet, by the way, I did a game there. It was concrete with some green stuff.
Dump.
Oh, it's bad, dude.
Oh, it was awful. Anyway, tonight at, what do they call it? Lincoln Financial. EAGLES, winner, chicken dinner.
Okay, George. Nobody cares. I'm for the Browns, though.
They care if we win.
I'm a former alumnus of the Browns, so I'm for the Browns.
You're a former alumnus of half the teams in that league, for God's sakes. You haven't played
I set you up for that one. That was a good one.
That was too easy.
You're a bum.
Yeah, well, the truth hurts. Let's do this before we get Kelly out of here, which on Fridays, he's not with us. Tomorrow we begin the high school football coverage, what we're calling Football Friday. And our initial descent will be into James Lawson High School.
The beautiful
new high school. The band will be there. We'll have students as part of it, a live studio audience. So here's what I would ask. Watch this first hour with us, because we've put a lot of work into this, and I think you're going to like it. We'll visit 15 different schools before it's over. The 2 to 3 o'clock hour will be high school football exclusively, and then we'll go back to our normal broadcasting already in progress.
Yeah, kick back, relax. It's going to be fun. It's going to be fun this season.
I'm excited, George. Just don't screw it up.
Thanks a bunch.
No problem. Just don't
rest well.
Billy, bring enough mics, bring the lighting, bring everything you're supposed to. Be professional for once in your life.
I'm keeping that in mind tomorrow.
Wow. This is not some gym shoe operation.
I mean, write it down. Write it down if you forget it, Billy. I know it's hard for that little brain of yours, but figure it out. Okay, grow up.
Thanks, Coach Donnelly.
Kelly, we'll see you Monday.
See y'all.
We'll see all of you tomorrow. Please join us at the beginning, because the beginning is going to get your attention. So long, everybody.